Listen!
Welcome to Nintendo Voice Chat for the week of April 27th, 2017. I am Jose Otero, and this is IGN's Nintendo Show. And coming up on Nintendo Voice Chat, we're going to talk about games we're playing. We're going to talk about the fiscal results from Nintendo's financial briefing that happened. They basically went over numbers for the year. We're going to tear into some of that, talk about the forecast. And finally, we're going to talk about some questions you submitted through the question block. Joining me this week, Brian Altano. And Per Schneider.
Hey, Jose.
How you guys doing?
Good, good.
Fun fact to lead off, it was Kirby's 25th anniversary on April 27th, 1992. It did not kill the Game Boy, but Kirby's Dream Land was put out for that system.
Happy birthday, Kirby.
Happy birthday, Kirby. Yeah. You guys have a favorite Kirby game? Because I know we don't give Kirby a lot of love on the show, and it's gotten us some heat.
You're going to call me crazy. I actually really liked Air Ride.
Okay.
Oh wow. Yeah. Well, Crystal Shards was cool. I have fond memories. Like, I like most of them. I'm not a Kirby hater.
Yeah, I like Robobot a lot.
Robot was awesome.
Yeah, Robobot's great.
That was a great
Deluxe,
game.
I wasn't a fan, but I know a lot of people who liked it. And then there's always Superstar, which will forever be this value pack, platform, action, everything video game. Yeah.
What it is with the Kirby games, they're clearly designed for younger players. I mean, they're designed for everyone, but they're very easy. So you don't have those highs and lows that you'd get from a Mario game. Like, we all have our favorite Mario level where it was kicking our ass and we're trying to beat it and we can't, right? Like, and then when you finally overcome that hurdle, you feel so good and it's such a memorable moment that you'll forever remember. You don't get those moments in Kirby, but all the game mechanics are really clever. It's super cute. I'm happy it's around, but
I appreciate the sort of like Metroidvania style stuff that some of them do where you have to collect certain powers and go back to previous areas, because I think that's when the game gets a little bit more difficult. Like, it doesn't scale to sort of younger and expert players the same way the Mario games do, but I think there's a lot of cool stuff there once you dig in.
Yeah, and it makes you feel really cool. Like, you can fight Wispy Woods or whatever his name is for like every game 100 times, but it's still a great lead-off boss fight. It's still a cool moment. They find fun ways to reinvent it. And I will say, you should send props to series creator, the guy sort of known for everything Kirby, Masahiro Sakurai, who's on Twitter, Sora Sakurai. Find him, send him a tweet. Congratulations, because that's a feat. Like 25 years of a new character. That's fun. All right, so let's lead off then with games we're playing, and we've got a long list to go through. So I hope you better buckle up for this. We're going to lead off with Puyo Puyo Tetris, which Per has been speaking in tongues to me in the morning. He's like, "Oh, last night I played Puyo Puyo, and it was so good." Tell the people why it's so good.
Well, first of all, Tetris by itself is good.
It's amazing.
Right? It's like you can't screw it up. And then
Wait. Yes, you can.
you could.
Oh, yes, you can.
Oh, yes, you can.
If you
Give me an example. Wait, before you let him.
I mean, Ubisoft's Tetris was kind of a mess when it launched a couple years ago. There's a lot of ways you can screw up Tetris. Like that. Okay, I don't care.
No. Okay, fine. There are more great Tetris games than there are poor ones, and
That's
the concept still works. Like, you don't actually have to introduce anything new. You start playing Tetris, you like it, and especially when you play 2-player or 4-player. And this game is 4-player. It already works, and you can absolutely do that. You can do versus play with 4 players. I'm not a big fan. Like, the way the buttons feel as a D-pad on the Switch is not that great, but on a Pro Controller it works really, really well. So then they add Puyo, which is Puyo Puyo or Puyo Pop, or what was it here? Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, whatever.
It's had many different
Kirby's
names.
Avalanche. Like, it was localized so many times. It's, of course, the old Compile was the company game, and Sega sells it now in the US. And it's like, you put 4 little slime balls together and they pop, and you can do awesome combos. So now you combine those two together.
Which is really cool because they work independently, and there are also modes where they speak back and forth. Puyo Puyo, am I saying that right?
Yeah, Puyo Puyo.
I'll never not
Rolls
feel
off the tongue.
It's always weird.
My son says Puyo Puyo.
Puyo Puyo.
Yeah, chicken.
It feels like it plays like Dr. Mario if
Tell him no. No, Puyo Puyo.
My daughter takes care of
Don't
that.
do
all
it.
the time, yeah.
Continue.
I was gonna say it plays like Dr. Mario if the viruses evolved.
Okay,
It's kind of like a worse disease going on inside the human body. But yeah, this is Switch's first, I believe, like first real sort of puzzle game, right? Not like a game.
Yeah,
with
World
some-
of Goo, but this one is more kind of classic, like match.
Tomorrow
match
Corporation
colors.
games are puzzle-ish, but
Yeah.
this is a different style of puzzle game that has now come
Yeah,
to the
the
store.
color
and
match.
it's an awesome first puzzle game because it's exactly like, like when you play something like Breath of the Wild, it's a game that you can sit in front of your TV for 100 hours and play. But I think this game is also one of the perfect sort of like pick up and play type of things. And getting into the Switch UI and starting a game is so fast to begin with. And the cool thing about this game is before you even get into the modes, on the home screen, there's a main menu option, but there's also like a Puyo menu. There's a Tetris thing where you just hit a button and you're immediately playing one of those games.
That's smart.
Like a quick match. You just jump right in. So like I love Tetris, always have, you know, like I'm a Game Boy kid, right? And like be able to like hit a button on my Switch and all of a sudden press A and I'm playing Tetris is perfect.
It's so fast, but then the multiplayer modes are really, really clever. So there's a mode where you switch. There's a timer where it switches you from Tetris to Puyo and back. Yep. And like basically you want to line up a piece right at the end when the countdown is going to like 5, 4, 3, and then your screen will be minimized on the side and the piece is still dropping. And if it connects and clears a Tetris or a Puyo-like combination, that will count as a combo if you then clear it on the other screen too. So you can kind of set things up. And then, of course, you'll drop garbage blocks or extra lines on the players next to you. And the 4-player mode is really where it comes to life. Yeah. So you can do one console, 4 players, even in tabletop mode, tiny screen. You can like squint at it and see the modes. Yeah. You can do link-up play, local. You can do online. It tracks your stats and everything. There are other modes, like there's a fusion mode where like the Tetris blocks have the power to squash bubbles.
Yeah.
And like get past the Puyo bubbles.
Which is insane. Like, because
so cool.
when I heard about this game, first of all, I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm necessarily interested in this. And then I dug into it and I'm like, I love this. Yeah. But when I thought like this, it's got one mode, another mode, like basically these 2 games, and the one where you swap between, I'm like, well, that's crazy, but that's really cool. But that fusion mode, where it's not just Tetris blocks, but there's Puyo shapes in the Tetris field, it breaks my brain because it's just like hard blocks squishing jellies.
And they don't mix, right? No. Like you have to use Tetris blocks to clear a line, but you can block your Puyo blocks with Tetris blocks accidentally. So it really complicates things.
Yeah, it has a very late 90s aesthetic to me. It just feels like this game ripped out of 1998.
It feels like a Dreamcast launch game.
Silly lines.
In the best way possible.
Super Japanese. I mean, it's all English voice acting, and it actually has a lot of voice acting in it because it has a story mode.
They say some really weird things that like they just sound strange.
Everything sounds a little dirty too. Like the things they'll say, like you're like, what did she say?
Like the block will fall down, they'll be like, cock.
Yeah.
You're like, did you sit? No,
but it's not. Or like coming,
maybe.
Yeah. And they just hate a lot, and after a while you become desensitized. But the first few times you're like,
but you'll start saying it too. Cerulean. I don't know why. What?
Why is that a thing?
But,
I don't understand.
But it's charming. It's funny. It has this kind of old school aesthetic, and then I mean, there's multiplayer party mode. Have you played that? So evil.
No.
It has little power-ups, and when you clear them, it creates an effect on the other player. So one effect could be lights out and just a spotlight.
Oh, that's cool.
Or you could curse them with misshapen Tetris blocks.
No, I haven't even tried that.
Yeah, we played that. That was cruel because you see like the L-shaped block all of a sudden has an extra block somewhere. So like, what happened?
I've been playing a lot of the adventure mode, which is like, so first of all, like the fact that we're even talking about all this means that these guys did a really good job of taking these 2 very simple concepts and sort of extrapolating everything you possibly could out of them. Yeah. Like this is not a bare bones launch title puzzle game. I remember buying a game called Polarium at the DS launch. Do you remember that game?
I remember that.
I mean, we've seen launch games and puzzle games are always like kind of hand in hand, and they're sort of like half-assed, right? You get like a couple modes here, a couple modes there. This is really, there's a lot here. So I'm playing adventure mode, which has a story, which I was like, why does this game have a plot? Like, this is ridiculous.
Very wordy.
But it's very smart, and it sort of works as a tutorial / crash course of how to sort of go through how insane this game can get. And then if you get lost in all that, there's a lessons section, which is like high level, created by some incredibly good Puyo and Tetris players who figured out ways to sort of like really break down kind of tutorials of how to get better at this game. Yep. And it feels
I'm going to spend time there. Because I'm not very good yet. I just started.
Me neither. We play Tetris. He's fine.
No, but I'm really good at Tetris. Yeah. The Puyo rules go
right over my head a little bit. If you never want to play Puyo, you can just play as a Tetris player. Even online, you can play Tetris against Puyo. And I think there's a weak spot there. I think Puyo is a little stronger, especially like in party mode. There's a curse where the blocks will drop really fast, and there's a big difference between like 4 little slime balls and a Tetris shape dropping super fast from the sky. Like it's a little imbalanced when you play it asymmetrically, But overall, I mean, it's $30, right?
Yeah.
So you know it's got to be a full-fledged package to impress, and I feel like there's so much in there. Challenge mode too, we haven't even talked about.
It's $30 digitally, but I believe it's $40 physically.
Yeah, that's right. So, and by the way, this is a game to own digitally because
that mean?
I sound like a '90s rapper.
Yeah. You want to just break it out when you're with friends. You guys totally lost me on that.
No. Well, yeah, you do.
like,
This is a great
I wasn't born
multiplayer
in
game.
the 90s.
Really?
I was already old in the 90s.
We're already old in the 90s. All right.
No, I think this is sort of a quintessential puzzle game for this.
What about challenge mode? Just quickly, like what's special about it?
You have to fulfill certain things,
like daily challenges?
Pieces. The pieces like you have to get rid of all the pieces on the screen.
So like a traditional challenge mode and sort of a
There's
puzzle.
more. There are like lots of little challenges and modes.
Sweet. The one thing I'm like not crazy about is you collect coins during regular play, and sometimes you'll do a match for like 5 minutes and you'll collect like 180 coins. Okay. And other times you do a match for 5 minutes and you'll collect 1 coin. Yeah. And these coins can be brought over to the options menu in a store where you can buy stuff like extra voices, which are like 1,000 coins,
shapes,
or different like skins for your Puyos or your Tetrises. But none of the skins are really that compelling. Like there's a retro one for the Puyos, which is kind of cool, but most of them are just kind of like, it's like darker Tetra.
Gaudy. They don't look that good. Like it would have been nice to have like a column skin, like the little crystals or something. Because I mean, Sega can do that.
And it's also like it's worth mentioning like Tetris DS is one of the coolest things ever done with the Tetris franchise.
Ever.
And this game has a lot of cool, it's got some cool art, it's got some cool character designs, it's got some funny voices. I do kind of miss that Nintendo flair that was there. Obviously, you can't get that back, but man, that was cool.
And it just fits with the time period of when that game came out. And it's not that it was that associated in terms of that it had been done before. It's just that it made sense for Mario and Link and and I almost called it Metroid. Samus Aran, but that character from Metroid.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've heard of her. But just running around the screen, I wasn't crazy about some of the side modes, but I was at least happy to see them be creative. Yep. And I really do wish that someday that thing gets renewed and they do another thing like that, Nintendo and Tetris together again.
Yeah, and it felt sort of like a precursor to stuff like NES Remix, or I used to love a game called Pictobits. It was a DSi game.
So if you're listening to this, though, and you don't have a Switch, reminder, this is out on PS4 as well, so you can totally check it out there if that's if you have not gotten a Switch yet. You were going to say something different before I said that.
No, I was just thinking, I mean, Nintendo has plenty of other puzzle franchises, too, that we haven't seen on the machine.
Puzzle League, specifically.
Puzzle League and Dr. Mario and, like, all the way back to, like, Yoshi's Cookie and all that.
They put Puzzle League in Animal Crossing, remember? With that last update, it was a little mini game, but it's Puzzle League, it's about time. But it's weird because with these branded puzzle ideas, I do want to transition, but before we do, I just feel like the ones that have been constantly rebranded, we've hit a point where like, well, what do you put them with now? And Puyo Puyo to me just does not sound like an interesting title, but it is one. Right. And we're here to tell people Puyo Puyo Tetris is a good one.
Well, if you're wondering what to do with the Dr. Mario franchise, we've had Dr. Mario, Dr. Luigi. Dr. Wario is available in a WarioWare game. Dr. Waluigi has not gotten his license.
Dr. Peach.
Dr. Peach. There we go. There we go.
Dr. Peach. That's the one I want.
How about Dr. Peach?
Not
Nurse Waluigi.
All right. Oh, even better. Yeah. I like that one more. Really quickly, before we transition to Mario Kart 8, have either of you picked up, because I think you both bought this game, Super Bomberman R. Have you touched it?
Yes.
Since that last update. No, you're going to go back? You have.
Yeah. So here's the thing with Super Bomberman R. It's 60 frames per second now for most like roughly about as close as I can get.
Yeah. Except story mode, just battle
for story mode. Yeah. But the resolution has taken a slight hit, which is odd because the game looked sort of like a Dreamcast game to begin with. But that said,
I think N64 game now.
Kinda, yeah. But that said, I think it's a good trade-off. And the controls have been fixed, so they're not like. They're not as sticky as they used to be. But the coolest thing about this is in some of the modes, like single players especially, the camera angle was locked sometimes at like a 3/4 angle. And now with the shoulder buttons, you can tilt it, which is pretty nice. Like, I don't know why they decided to keep it that way to begin with, but I'm glad they fixed it. But the most exciting part of it is that Konami is bringing free DLC to it with character skins from Vic Viper, Pyramid Head from Silent Hills, and Simon Belmont or Simon Beaumont or Bell Bomb or whatever you want to call him.
Belmont. Oh, do they have a cute
no.
That's such an opportunity.
So it's free, and it's kind of cool that they're acknowledging some of their classic franchises. This is Super Bomberman R is like one of the best-selling Bomberman games. Yeah, that's weird, right?
Yeah.
Because it just launched on Switch, right place at the right time. So, yeah, maybe this will be a thing that grows over time.
Is it worth it? I mean, like, I didn't pick up Bomberman at all.
I didn't either.
Don't think it's worth $50.
Okay.
I do not think.
Even with the free DLC, even with the free, because there were maps too.
They added new maps too. That's right. I don't think. I mean, here's the thing. Like, if you love Bomberman, then of course it's worth $50. If you have like a bunch of Pear, it might be worth it for you because you have kids and you're looking for multiplayer games like that all the time. I would borrow a copy at work and see if it sticks with them. But
I have one.
Try it.
yeah, $50 is kind of steep for this. That said, I don't feel like I got ripped off. It's got a pretty decent single player mode, like a story mode with some cool boss fights and stuff like that. I think we gave it a 6.5,
which was mostly the content argument of, hey, this didn't justify that price, and it didn't run great either. I remember Ryan's review.
And it seems like those things are getting fixed.
Yeah, they're fixing that stuff. So that's why I wanted to bring it up. I didn't have it listed in the notes, but I thought it was a good idea.
For sure.
So next is obviously my favorite here so far, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which there's a review on the site now, 9.3. This is everything that Mario Kart 8 had, plus a great battle mode, which we're going to get into and talk about because now we've all finally played it.
Yep.
I mean, Mario Kart 8 was already a great game to me, and battle mode was the thing we constantly argued about. And I remember even when we had those conversations, I'd be like, well, I didn't care about battle mode. I feel like it skipped me. Like, I was the one guy in the room who was like, yeah, I didn't really play this a lot. I thought the races were more fun. I was wrong. Battle mode is really good, especially the 5 modes they shipped with, which were obviously classic balloon battles in there.
That one is,
but Bomb Blast is great. It is so much fun to just lob bombs left and right. There's no self-damage or friendly fire, so it's not as frustrating. Coin Runners, I'm not a fan of. I just don't think it's as exciting, but Renegade Roundup is a ton of fun, but needs a lot of communication. That's the cops and robbers mode. And then you have I'm missing one. Shine Thief. Shine Thief is just the best game of keep away / oddball if you play Halo that fits within Mario Kart.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy with the suite that they rolled out.
To me, I mean, Renegade Roundup's really strong as a team game. Again, is going to suffer a little bit from communication, but
absolutely.
But like when you're playing it, there are enough indicators, right? Like when you get caught by the cops, you're put in a jail cell, and then the other robbers basically have to get out. The renegades have to drive over a switch, and it does give you a good visual cue that your friends are caught.
You can also shout for help. If you honk the horn, you're saying, help me.
Exactly.
So you're trying to get attention.
But when you're playing it locally, then it really turns into, get me out. I'm stuck. And when the counter goes down and only one guy is out free, it gets really, really frantic. And you're cheering on the last person who's trying to get you out. And that's lost a little bit without voice chat right now. Hopefully that game is going to get updated once there's the chat app or whatever it is. I mean, in the meantime, we're just Skyping each other.
I do think that's an odd miss right now that stuff wasn't ready for the launch of this game. It just seems strange. I think it's coming. I'm sure it'll be there at some point, but it just feels weird that wasn't there for this.
Yeah, and you hope that this game doesn't suffer. But in fairness, and granted, these are old analogies and examples, but Wii didn't suffer for it, DS didn't suffer for it, 3DS didn't suffer for it, and 8's attach rate is pretty much a testament that didn't suffer either.
Yeah, right.
That said, though, you do want to change that message. You do want to turn it around that a Nintendo game with an online friends list has some actual interaction involved. Because right now, that is not what you guys are good at or that you provide very well. It's just very light interaction.
Yeah, it goes from a kind of light fun to being about community, being about friends and interaction, close interaction between friends, right? You want to create something that feels like you're getting together with your friends every day. And that's just much easier if you can instantly communicate. Otherwise, it's all of us sitting on the main menu saying, I'm using tilt controls.
I did that while we were playing during other review. I kept spamming, I'm using tilt controls.
Lie, too.
No, I wasn't.
Lie in this game.
Yeah,
but,
often.
But big shout out to Balloon Battle. It's just such an evergreen.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
It works really well. There's no, at first I was sad that the old bomb isn't back. When you died in the old Mario Kart games.
I love that in Mario Kart 64. I love that so much.
Yeah, they got rid of that. So you're not sitting around not playing. Yeah. You're still playing, right? You get your balloons back. But man, it's so good, and just booting up the game again, even outside of battle mode, I kept on thinking there's no kart racer, there's no action kind of fun racing game like that's better.
No.
It's just nothing on the market. Like down to the way it controls. When you're playing like what used to be the DLC levels like Zelda, they replaced all the coins with rupees, you know, and like the sound effects are different. It's like there's just so much care in this game. Like in the F-Zero track, you replenish your coins by going over the charge strips.
Yeah, no, they're very conscious of what it's almost like Smash Brothers level of detail, where like they're just very conscious of what makes sense in this stage. How do we pay careful respect to what we've already had, and that's why the day that a Metroid level shows up, I'm there. Like I would love that. Not that that's happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they are very conscious of that, and I feel like I kept getting a lot of questions though, and I want to address one of them specifically, where folks were saying, "Well, is this worth it? If you put in all the time on Wii U and you played this a lot, is battle mode alone worth it?" And I would say, it's not just battle mode, and if you're only judging it by battle mode, I think that and you feel like you've had your fill of Mario Kart 8, I don't think you need to buy this. But I would say this is not just a great battle mode that you can play with folks anywhere, you can drop a challenge. It is also a great Switch game and a great example of a Switch game. Something that, like, if we're all on a trip, or we're all just sitting around in the office, even before this podcast, we can just have a quick race.
It untethers it.
Yeah, it's so cool. And 8 being, in my opinion, a lot better than 7, and 8 being one of the best Mario Kart games I think they've ever done. Yeah.
I mean, like, this is one of those games where if anybody gave it a 10, I'd be totally fine with it, because it's so.
But I know.
No, I know, but it's so. It's first of all, it has a ton of tracks, and they're not janky mirrored tracks. They're like all original, all very different, all feel unique with like moving elements. On top of that, you have a battle mode with 8 tracks. You have a crap ton of characters. You have all these unlockable car parts, all these different rule sets you can do. You can play it online. Like, it's just such a full-featured package. Now, I did, like, when I first booted it up, I'm like, there's that sense of familiarity. Why do I want to play it if all of the cups are already unlocked?
I was going to talk about that real quick.
It's a little wind out of the sails, but you do unlock as you play. You do unlock all the car pieces, and then with new characters, like you can play as the Inklings, for example, right? Like. You are unlocking new cars and you're seeing new stuff, and it does feel fresh.
I did find that a little peculiar, and I was torn on it, right? Because I think it's like, part of me was like, this is awesome, everything's here. And the other part of me was just like, but I think I realized, like, a part of the reason I love going through all the cups in Mario Kart is to unlock stuff. And you can get car parts doing that, but all the courses are there, all the characters are there from the jump. So if you've never played Mario Kart 8, oh my God, I can't even imagine like how like exhilarating and overwhelming it is to open up that game and be like, there's 40 characters here. There's 100, you know.
If you didn't have the DLC too.
Yeah,
that's a great surprise too. No, and maybe it's also signs of that they need to start rethinking what single player is in Mario Kart. Like, I feel like it is the one area that even myself as a fan, I'm not sure how they should approach it, because I don't think I've seen it done in a great way.
Well, they've tried. Back in the DS version, there was like a story mode, that a single player campaign where you had boss fights and stuff like that.
What do you think of that, though? And be real about that.
It's like, I'm glad they did it there, because that's a GBA game, and I didn't always have 7 other GBAs or 4 other GBAs sitting next to me. But I look at something like Diddy Kong Racing, which people put above Mario Kart. I've never been that guy. I understand why people love it. It's just not really my thing comparatively, especially to Mario Kart 64, which is one of my favorites in the series. That one had a actually really well sort of thought out approach to single player, in that like there's an open world. It felt kind of Mario 64-ish. So I don't know if it needs something that kind of elaborate.
Might be too much.
It might be too much.
F-Zero GX had a cool, remember that? That entire story.
Do you remember that? That was so wacky, and
it was
silly.
so hard.
It was, yeah.
But I would love it if there was some sort of quest mode in Mario Kart. If there were 8 items that you didn't have in the beginning, and there'd be in Zelda, you beat this cup and you get to a temple, and then you get your triple mushroom or whatever, right? To give you the sense of discovery and freshness, rather than, Mario Kart always feels like, I know exactly what this game is about. I'm getting back in, and you get a lot of joy out of it, but not the joy of discovery. And Diddy Kong did have that.
Yeah, but it doesn't, by adding that stuff, you do take away from the just pick up and play. Just jump in, and everything is open, and you can have every mode open, every possibility. Yeah. And I do think it's a tough balance to manage, I think, just because of that. Because I do think that I'm like you. I feel torn on that. We're okay, maybe there could be a better single player here. But at the same time, if I want to go to someone's desk and just drop a challenge and we want to play a certain cup, we can do that. And it's not like, oh, well, I can only choose from these races. Or think of if you booted up 1-2-Switch and there's like, oh, well, you must play these games before we'll give you the rest.
That is annoying.
That's a little too much. And then you're just like, well, no, I don't want to play these 3. I just want to get to ball count. Where is it? You know, like, could I just jump in that?
Well, I think 1-2-Switch was kind of like that, actually.
What?
1-2-Switch, because you did have to actually get through certain sections to.
No, that's what it means. Yeah.
I didn't like that about it.
I didn't either. No, I'm with you on that. Like, the interesting thing is that there is one unlockable character in this game.
Gold Mario.
And he's a repaint of, of Silver Mario, Gold, regular Mario, Tanuki Mario. He's the 4th Mario. Oh, Baby Mario. I think there's like 5 Marios.
That's the show-off character. Yeah, like when you're playing online, that's your show-off.
The gold cart parts were the same thing in 8, right? You can get the gold glider, I think, and there was a gold cart, and there were gold wheels, and they were just signs that I did everything, but it's not necessarily a platinum trophy.
I think it just feels a little strange as a Nintendo fan playing a Nintendo game, which are almost always known for like their secrets and unlockables and like sort of like collectibles and stuff like that. There's just a very big collecting aspect to Nintendo games, and to have everything available from the jump took that away from me a little bit. It hasn't stopped my joy. I still love Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
And you were kind of down on this going in. Like, do you feel like it has exceeded or met or exceeded your expectations now?
The battle mode's really cool. I think that it's still like a little bit of a. It's still a little bit of a head scratcher to be like, the fact that we're even answering this question without just saying like declaratively like, oh, you must buy this game. Because to somebody who had the version on Wii U with all the DLC, like it's still a second to be like, well, like, let me ask you, like, how are you going to play this game? Like tomorrow I have a cross-country flight. And I'm going to bring my Switch in Mario Kart 8. And I'm going to take those Joy-Cons off, and me and my wife are going to play Mario Kart together. And that's something we couldn't do on the Wii U, because my Wii U didn't work 4 feet away. So for me, like, that's an edge case, but it works really awesome. Next week, I have another cross-country flight with my friend Max Scoville.
But it's not just for flights, right? It's great on your TV, too.
It's great on my TV, too. But, I mean, this is a scenario
already has
where...
Wii U there.
I got
but, like, Max has a Switch, and he's buying Mario Kart 8 tomorrow, and we're going to play... like over Wi-Fi or whatever it is, with like connection next week, where we each have our own screen, and that's like awesome. I couldn't do that before, and I used to play Mario Kart on GBA. I used to play Mario Kart on 3DS. Like, so in that way, it's really, really cool. What do you? I think it depends on what you're going to be using this.
What do you think about the small editions? We haven't talked about the double item thing, right? And it's very different from like Double Dash, where you can actually tactically control what item you use next. It's basically just you hold 2 items. It makes a difference, I feel like, in battle mode, where it's not always just fire and then run again for a thing. Like, you can actually plan a little bit. You go like, ooh, I have a mushroom and a turtle, and you zoom in and hit somebody. Like, I think it
happens in races too. Yeah, like where you'll be like, hey, I have this thing. No, absolutely, but you can switch between them, which was a signature Double Dash thing. It feels like the way I was playing Mario Kart before Mario Kart 8, because in 7 you just use the item and hold it behind you while you pick up something else. I don't think it's added a ton, but it is nice to have that back versus the way Mario Kart 8 did it, which was, hey, you're only holding 1 item, and I think it was just a way to keep things sort of balanced on their end.
And I never liked that. I always loved that you could have a defensive item and collect another just in case. So that's nice that that's back.
Absolutely.
A couple of other their tweaks, obviously, like fire hopping is gone, right? So they tweaked it a little bit for some of the exploits that were
Smart steering is in there. So if you've got kids, which is it's a confusing part of the UI for sure, just because it's embedded in the weirdest place it could possibly be. But if you've got a kid, if you've ever played Mario Kart with kids, you know that when they fall off the track, it's sad. Like, this is great. Like they're like just done. Like I got a friend's 9-year-old. He's always sad he can't finish a race.
My son
in Mario Kart 7 because he falls off the track. Whereas he'll play this and he's like, thank God.
I wanted to talk about this real quick because it's like there's 2 things about it. Number one, it's turned on from the jump without you even like toggling that. So that's something, if you don't want it, which if you're listening to this show, I'm guessing you've played a Mario Kart game before.
You're not going to want it.
You probably don't want it on.
Annoy you.
I had it on, didn't realize it, and then jumped into some online matches with Greg Miller and was like, I felt like someone was like possessing my cart. Like I went to go take a shortcut and it was just like no, and pulled me to the center of the track.
It needs an update to tell you that it's on in a clearer way. And if you pause the game, it'll show you that it's on.
Yeah, it'll show you. And like you'll see on the back of your cart, there's a little like antenna with a yellow ball on it, which is kind of cute.
Target.
Number two, that said, this is not a win button. Like I went on 200cc with smart steering on, and because I saw some videos people were putting on YouTube of them just like getting in first place with smart steering on without 50cc without touching the controller, which I think you can do if you're kind of lucky, right? I put it on 200cc. Started the match, put the controller down 4 times in a row in a Grand Prix, 12th place every single time, dead last in the entire cup. And that's like, maybe if I had picked it up and hit a few buttons for items, I would have done a little bit better, but this is not, like, you will not automatically win.
I'm confident they balance it pretty well. I try, I mean, look, my youngest one was losing, you know, my kids are 16, 14, 11, and the 11-year-old kept on getting smoked in the game. And I said, why don't you turn on the smart steering? And he got so mad.
Yeah.
Like it was, you know, he felt it was so condescending.
9-year-olds have no shame.
Do it.
They go straight for the smart steering.
I may just secretly turn it on because I think he'll have a better time, honestly.
Yeah.
Because he got really mad whenever he loses.
I like this stuff. It falls in line with what they did with Super Mario New Super Mario 3DS or 3D World.
Yeah, just the idea of keeping younger players in mind. I mean, like, all right, we want them to get through. No, I completely agree with you. But I do believe this thing will get patched. So it'll be easier to find smart steering and turn it on or off. Like, I just think this team cares. I think Nintendo has shown too with Zelda that it's not just a fire and forget. I don't think that'll be the case with Mario Kart either. Even if it's just one patch, it will still be, hey, we're gonna fix this.
It's confusing, right? Because it's like you hit that button and 3 options come up, and one of them is for smart steering, one of them is for motion control, and one of them is for auto accelerate, which is like none of them are very well explained. So I was just kind of flicking them on and off to see what worked. I mean, I understood motion control, but like I didn't know what auto accelerate meant.
You got to put that more up front. I don't mind that it's on from the start because it's on for the start in like Forza, and that's like a hardcore racing game. Different, but still the same idea of like, hey, we want your first time on the track to be a good time, especially when you think about all the tracks are open from the start, and also if you're playing with one of these smaller Joy-Con, not the most comfortable way to play this game.
I get that.
I was going to say, taking off the Joy-Cons but not putting the straps on them and playing sideways like that, it's a cute novelty.
It is.
When you go to power slide, it's like power sliding with the volume buttons on your phone. It's tough, and we made it work.
And it's creaky too.
It's
like
creaky and clicky.
Feel it very like it doesn't.
You got to
feel
bring
right.
the straps.
I think so. Yeah.
Actually, I meant with the straps. So you're saying without it?
Without? Have you tried it without?
No, I won't. I won't go near it.
Give that a shot because it's just, I mean, just imagine it. Like you're power sliding with these little indented buttons. But I think when I fly tomorrow, I'm straight up going to bring a Joy-Con grip and a Pro Controller.
Okay.
I'm like, yeah, why not? Like we each get our own controller on an airplane. That rules.
I think this is a game. If you have a lot of people around you who like Mario Kart, you must buy. I think if you're looking for a single player game, Mario Kart has never been the right answer. It isn't. Whereas this, if you're a Switch owner, I confidently say this is the best Mario Kart game they've made. Actually, we have a question related to the Mario Kart series.
Love that game.
The show.
So good.
Yep. All right, next game we have on our list. Tell me, should I care about Kamiko?
Okay.
It's a $5 Switch game.
Yeah.
That showed up on the Japanese eShop. I want to say a week or 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, yeah.
And you own it.
I actually imported it, quote unquote, because I mean the cool thing about that is I set up a Japanese account on my Switch, which took 5 minutes. Using a separate email, I started a My Nintendo account and just in the drop-down menu chose Japan as my location. So now on my Switch menu, I have like Brian and Japanese Brian, and
you put money in it.
So for that, I went to Play Asia and I bought a $10 eShop card, which they emailed me the digital code for instantly.
Right away.
So no mail, no nothing.
There's a way to do it on Amazon JP too, but I'm not sure because you do need, I think, a Japanese address though.
And that's where it gets a little more cumbersome.
It gets a little more cumbersome, but it's possible, and they'll send you a code as well. I've heard if that's not true, write in. There's also smaller sites, but watch it. There's markup on that stuff. So like 6,000 eShop points is next thing you know, it's 6,500 or 6,800. They try to get some money out of you just for providing.
I think my $10 one came out to like $10.50, right? Okay, and I used it to buy a $5 game, so I have like $5 left in Japanese money.
You spent an extra 50 cents.
Spent an extra 50 cents. Well, whatever. Yeah, I'll be okay. So I bought Kamiko, which is a game. It's sort of a top-down action slash with mild puzzle element game. People are saying it's Zelda-ish. It's not very Zelda-ish, aside from the fact that one of the three main characters has a sword
and a spin attack.
It looks like Link to the Past top-down, kind of like the visuals. That's why I thought I looked at it and wanted to play it.
Yeah,
but
it's got some cute, chunky pixel art.
It got a downgrade visually. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, totally. And it's got some like very kind of minimalist
12-bit.
Minimalist, chunky pixel art with some cool, really cool music to it. 3 playable characters. The thing about this game is that it's basically 5 levels, 4 or 5 levels. Each one of them is different in theme, but similar in sort of approach. You have to light up 4 nodes that are sort of scattered all over the world, and then walk through that node. It'll bring you through a beam, and you fight a boss. Do that 4 or 5 times in a row, you fight the main boss, and the game is over. Then you can switch over to one of the other characters, another 3 characters. They all play slightly differently. And people are speedrunning this game. The game, top to bottom, took me about an hour and 5 minutes, which I feel okay with a $5 game. And then I immediately went and started a second playthrough with a different character to see how she controlled. People are beating this game in under 15 minutes. So the speedrunners are tearing this thing apart. If that's something you're interested in, cool. I think it's like it's a perfect fit for the Switch. It looks really cute and gorgeous and fun, and it's $5, which is
like it's out in the US now, right?
It's out in the US now.
This week.
That said, like there's not a lot to it. It's pretty bare bones. So if that's something you're okay with, if you're looking for something else, I mean, between all the other games we talked about this week, it's not like you're really starving for stuff.
Not thirsty for games this week. Yep. Yeah, there's some good stuff going on. All right, next on the list, Wonder Boy: The Dragon's Trap, which I've played a little bit of, but this is basically a remake of a Master System game. It is the 3rd game, I believe, in the Wonder Boy series, and this was made by a French team, which I'm forgetting the developer's name, but it's something clever. But anyway, the idea is it's a side-scrolling action platformer style game, very much in the vein of the closest comparison to Nintendo fan is Zelda 2 or Xanadu or something like from that NES era, with a new coat of paint that looks incredible.
It's very Rayman-ish,
very much UB art looking, very French, but not overdrawn French art as sometimes that can happen. I really enjoy it. Like, it's very easy to switch between the visual styles. You can switch only the soundtrack if you want to. It does show, though, that it's an old game, at least in its design, because you'll reach a certain point where it's not quite clear what the next thing to do is. And it's very easy to forget, especially if you don't know Wonder Boy. Like, I didn't grow up with Wonder Boy.
I did not either.
I don't know anything about it, but I have so far been hooked enough by this game to give it a shot here and there. But I did hit a wall at one point right after you. So you basically get cursed early on in the game. Actually, what's really cool, I want to bring this part up. The beginning of this game is the end of Wonder Boy 2. So when you start this game, you're entering the final battle. And that's a really cool thing when you think about the time period of which this game came out. We're talking about that 80s period where like games were still kind of figuring things out. And that was another thing I really enjoyed in like Super Metroid, for example, when that game starts and you walk by the smoking hole in the ground that was Mother Brain. That's how you connect with players. Right. I love that this game was trying that even then. So I think that's really cool. But you're this hero, you get cursed and you are turned into, what's the first form you get turned into?
Dragon.
It's like a dragon, yeah. And then from there you get cursed again and you're turned into a mouse.
Yep.
And then you turn into something else. And there's a larger story to it all. But when you see just how much work went into the graphics, it is difficult not to be impressed at the level at which and how good it looks now.
Yeah, it's got this sort of Mario Maker style graphic switch button where you just hit the right shoulder button. And you instantly go from 8-bit to this gorgeous new painterly style that they have now. That said, I think, Jose, you completely nailed it. Like, it does have a lot of sort of old tendencies to feel like a very vintage, very classic game. I have no idea what that noise was either.
We'll just get out.
Switch message or something.
No, it sounds like when you're in a hospital and a baby's born.
Congratulations.
No, so it was it's really cool and it's very clever in a lot of ways. It does also feel kind of like a Metroid game without a map. It's got that sort of Zelda to hit detection, which when it works feels great, but like when you get bounced around a little bit is very frustrating.
You bounce around more than Zelda 2 too. I know exactly what you're talking about. Like if you get hit by a projectile, you tend to like stay in a stun animation. As long as something's consecutively hitting you, you don't come out of it, which is annoying. But you do have to go for those very precise Zelda 2 like stabs where like when you're fighting the first boss, that's that horse-headed thing. I don't know what its name is, but you jump up and you have to get that swipe. Yeah, I just found myself kind of hitting the wall sometimes a little bit on that one.
Yeah, it's very interesting game because like you said, I didn't grow up with Wonder Boy either, so I don't really have nostalgia for the original. If I want to see what that game looked like, I can click a button and it goes from this painterly, beautiful art style to this retro 8-bit art style. But actually playing it, I was like, I understand why there's a lot of nostalgia towards this game because it is a really special game. The character switching thing is interesting because it doesn't actually let you choose which character you want to be for a while. You start the game choosing either a boy or a girl. From there, you get cursed. You become a dragon, which is genderless. And then immediately you switch between being like a mouse or a lion type thing. Only later in the game where you're at this sort of central hub, which is the town area at the beginning, do you open up this room that lets you switch between any of those characters on the fly, which you have to do to sort of traverse the world. Again, very Metroid-y. But before that, you're like, I'm stuck as a mouse. And the mouse isn't that great. Like his thing is he can climb walls, but his sword sucks. Yeah. And the dragon can't jump very high, but he can shoot fireballs.
Yeah, so you can keep things at a distance.
Yeah, so you're kind of like switching between these characters, but not at your own choice. Boss fights get pretty tough. Finding them is kind of a pain, and when you die, like
That's
going all the way back through.
Like that's where the signs of the old game sort of start to appear. And for me, it's definitely the telltale sign that with some games, despite how good intention remakes can be, I do think you need hooks in there to point players in the right directions, because sometimes, like games from the 80s, they were just so opaque. Like you just had no clue sometimes. What do you mean to hit my head against the mountain? Remember that Simon's Quest?
Oh God,
yeah. There was plenty of like lies and deceit in that game, but not to say that happens here, but it's still very much that you'll talk to some people like, oh, well, you need a priest. Well, where do I find them? Guy just looks at you. And you're like, great. Okay, I'm gonna go look for him.
Yeah, it definitely has some of that.
Not a bad game. Like,
no,
I
definitely
think we
agree on that. I would absolutely recommend it, honestly, for somebody looking for like cool sort of action platformer for their Switch right now. And it's really, really pretty. Like it looks great on TV. It looks great in handheld mode. The soundtrack's awesome.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool game.
All right, so I'll go rapid fire through this next one because I do want to move on to the fiscal results and the recap and all that stuff. We got some numbers here. I want to talk about Bye Bye Box Boy, which I have been playing. Yes, your 3DS is still relevant, or so Nintendo wants you
playing on the 3DS.
to know. It is. It works. It is. So the Box Boy trilogy is finally complete. I haven't finished it, but it is every bit as clever, every bit as smart in terms of design. They added a new character, these new little Q-babies. I think it's Quib-babies. I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but there are stages where you are working with one and it is separated from you. So what you're doing at the top of the stage will affect it on the bottom of the stage. So you're like dropping blocks down so it can go over pitfalls, or you are trying to trigger switches so it can get through, but then you can slip through as well.
It's an escort mission, basically.
Some of it.
And it builds on some of the things you learned in the previous games, and you quickly learn in this one, where it's like, you create boxes over your head to protect yourself from a laser. In this one, you got the baby following you. You go like the baby. You have to make a shield for the baby as well. So it's really clever how it just builds on the puzzle concept.
And the best way it builds is the new boxes that they introduced. So there's a box rocket where you're able to basically, any box that you make on that stage has a rocket thruster that after a few seconds will ignite, fire, and send it up to a switch that's floating above. So you can trigger switches that are above you that way, or you can rise to certain platforms that way. Then they have the bomb box is what they call it. So it's basically Bomberman, right? You put it down, it blows up, and it will sort of work in a cross section, so the diagonals are protected. So you slowly can basically explode your way to a certain point so that you can clear a puzzle. The third one that I've uncovered, but there are four, is the warp box. This one's crazy because basically you create a string of boxes, and the last one is a teleport box. And so when you're done and you put the row down, you will be teleported to that spot as soon as the timer is up. So you see like a and then you pop on that side. So again, you're using it to kind of get through like pitfalls and traps and things like that. I think that's cool. I haven't gotten to the remote box yet. That's the fourth type. I don't know what to expect, but I'm going through it quickly, and it does a better job, I think, than the first game of sort of like just getting to the point of an idea. I think they almost expect you to know at this point if you've played Box Boy. but it is every bit a satisfying puzzle game. I'm sure there's a whole section of puzzles I'm going to unlock once I'm cleared it, which has been the fun surprise with each of the Box Boy games.
It's just a very these games have always been kind of under the radar, super clever puzzle games. Once you start playing, you want to keep on playing. Then there are additional challenges where you may have beaten a level by using 12 boxes, and then they go, now do it with 6, right? You're like, that's not possible, and then you figure it out. Makes you feel really smart. They added some stuff like it has amiibo support now, confirming that QB is in the same universe as Kirby. All of the amiibo are Kirby based.
That's confirming that.
Totally confirmed. You can even change the skin to Kirby for QB.
Trying to think of other. Wait, so that means never mind. I'm not even going to do
Meta
this.
Knight. Kirby. All of the Kirby characters can be swiped.
You just made up this fiction by yourself.
No, it's true.
Wait till you play Smash Brothers, Pear. It's gonna blow your mind.
And you can use the Japanese QB.
So what does it do?
Amiibo.
What
Well, I don't know, because when I swiped it, it says you've already unlocked that feature. So it's like I bet it's based on you playing the previous games and unlocking all the skins and stuff. I got them because I played the previous games. I think the amiibo will unlock.
Which is neat and also cruel, by the way, because if you're playing 3 for the first time, like I didn't play much of 2. Like I got a little into it and then stopped for whatever reasons. I'm sure it was very busy when it came out. So all of the outfits from 2 that would unlock are not allowed. I can't wear them, and they just sort of hover there in the shop. And I'm like, I want those. So I went back. I played 2. I bought them all because I had enough currency.
Oh, nice.
That's what happened. But I just feel that's mean. I'm just like, I want that outfit, or I want that thing.
And that amiibo is
and
not
I'm not sure if there's a way to
available
unlock it if you just play that one.
It has color in it.
It does have color for the
little color. It was always black and white.
Yeah,
Not much, just a little.
Just a little tinge of red.
Yeah, part of me wishes, and I tweeted about it the weekend that I was playing it and got a bunch of angry responses of, well, I want this on Switch. And I totally hear that person. 3DS is getting this game because this game came out a year ago in Japan. This is not that someone sat around and it's like, well, should we put it on? I'm sure someone had that discussion. Would it make sense to make a trilogy for Box Boy and release it as one thing for Switch?
For sure.
Absolutely would. And we can't recommend that enough. If you still have your 3DS lying around, though, this is a really good game. So don't sleep on Bye-Bye Box Boy, as it's called. All right, let's switch topics then and talk about Nintendo's financial results, which yesterday, basically, they outed all of their numbers for the last fiscal year. So remember, that means from March of the year prior, April of the year prior to the end of March. This is basically them meeting and hitting that forecast for Wii U, which was actually really low. We talked about that. Switch, 3DS, what they talked about for mobile, etc. And what they didn't talk about, or what they one sentence mentioned, which we're going to get to. So Switch sales, overall, the overall story is profits are up. Switch is off to a good start. Pokemon Sun and Moon crushed on 3DS. Mobile is doing okay from what we can tell.
Yeah.
And the sale of the Mariners, that money came through. So that's also part of why this year profits were up. And there was also a bunch of money from the Pokemon company that came through. I don't know the exact figure off the top of my head. I think it was like upwards of $80 million or something.
And that's licensing in Pokemon.
I think it's partially Go money, but I don't have the figure right, so don't quote me on that. If you're sitting there going, no, what's versus? I'm sorry, I didn't actually bring it in my notes, so I shouldn't mention it. But overall, Switch sales numbers, 2.74 million Switch units sold worldwide. Now, reminder, this is between March 3rd and March 31st. So that's
less than a month. Yeah. It, you know what that tells us? Nothing. At this point, I mean, if you look at console launches, each one of them is different, right? In the case of the PS4 and the Xbox, you had 2 consoles launching at the same time, right? Eating into each other.
At the holiday season.
With the Wii U, you had it launch alone in the holiday season with not the strongest game lineup. If you remember Nintendo Land and 2D Mario, like not as big, obviously, as the new Zelda game. And this one launched in March. Now, if you compare it to a 3DS launch or a DS launch, it's not as strong, right? But those also cost half the money. Yeah. Right, like some of them at least. Yeah. So we don't know a lot from this yet.
Yeah, yeah.
And like when you compare the launch numbers between Wii U, Wii, and now the Switch, the verdict is out.
Sure.
Right?
It does show that at least it sold higher than projection, because their projection was 2 million and they were done. Yeah, so they hit that. The attach rate of 100% for Zelda was something none of us thought we'd say.
It's 100.
It's 100
more than
plus.
100%.
Yeah, okay, so I'll get into that. Zelda Breath of the Wild. sold 3.84 million total for just Breath of the Wild, but actually on Switch it was 2.76 million, which is 20,000 more than Switch units sold. So there are 20K extra copies of Breath of the Wild in the world that either aren't being used,
special editions,
or were
people
collected.
buy the special editions and don't open them, right?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I bought the special edition, and then I also bought it digitally because the special edition had a bunch of cool stuff. I think a bunch of people bought Breath of the Wild, and I know for sure because I tweeted about this, and anecdotally people responded saying, I bought this game and I still can't find a Switch. So it's just sitting there waiting. And I think we're looking at these Switch sales numbers being like, pretty strong, Nintendo. No one has seen one on a shelf in a month. So it's like these numbers could have been 4 million. They've actually actively shipped more. That said, I think it's kind of amazing that we've just gone 40 minutes talking about new Nintendo games, and this is the first time we mentioned Breath of the Wild. Like, remember when we were like, this is the only game out there?
No,
the entire show so far, we have not said.
But it does show. But it does show there's demand. It does show that people are still excited about the system, and the question is, do they sustain momentum? Which they have a sort of calendar lineup of games where they're saying, hey, we're going to spread these out.
So that's where I feel like the story does look more positive as with the Wii U, right? Like at the launch of a console, you get a lot of diehard fans who buy it. And then the success of the consoles is determined by how many people are buying into the console after that, right? Like how big can the install base really get and make it worth for publishers to make games. When the Wii U came out, it had... before the end of the year, it came out in November, it had 4 dozen games for it. So not a small lineup of titles either.
Not a great lineup.
There were there was more third-party support. It was
a lot of ports.
But there was a high number of games. And then in the next year, suddenly it was dropped, right? Like the biggest game I think was like March, Lego City or something. And like you went almost through to like August or something until you got Pikmin.
But Per, I don't remember it as big of a launch though, because there was a tepid reception to Wii U. And it was a very easy console to find when it came out.
And so what I'm saying is the Wii U launched with a lot more software than the Switch. You could actually find Wii U's on store shelves, though. I remember like the launch, like the weekend after launch, we looked at stores and we're like, they all have Wii U's. That's not a good sign, right?
The day of launch.
Switch is gone. And it's every time we post an article saying, hey, Amazon has Switches, 10 minutes later, it's all
gone.
Now the Switch, though, the difference and why I feel pretty good about this machine is that not only did we launch with Zelda, we got Mario Kart, Splatoon, and Mario coming within the first year. And that is as much as the Wii U got in its entire life.
You're still hitting hardcore genres with like Xenoblade 2 if that's on schedule, which it better be. Sorry, had to do that because you lied to me before. You lied to me for 3 years about the last Xenoblade. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's one thing to have tremendous games. It's one thing to have killer apps. I think another thing, like this, the fact that like we're looking at games like Zelda and Mario Kart specifically are not just games that like can dominate or at least get very high up in an NPD very early on. These are long tail franchises with long legs.
If you buy a Switch next year, you're going to buy Zelda, right?
Exactly. And I think Zelda in 6 months or a year or two is just as appealing as it is today. Games like Skyrim and GTA, Zelda and Mario Kart joined the ranks of those franchises. Mario Kart was in the NPD for a long time. Mario Kart is one of those games that sticks around once it gets in there. Like it's one of the best-selling Wii U games. I think it was the best-selling Wii game. Was it up there?
Yeah, 34 million.
Yes, 34 million.
Upward of 34 million.
And you look at that and you look at the attach rate that I think we're seeing with the Switch. This has potential to reach, I believe, maybe not necessarily DS or Wii numbers, but I think it'll do 3DS numbers. If it does somewhere between 3DS and Wii numbers, like you're looking at a hit here. Now, obviously, we're already running into the issue that I think many of us predicted before the launch, is that game announcements are hitting now, right? We're getting stuff like Prey and Battlefront 2,
World War
Call
II.
of Duty, and Red Dead. None of them are coming to Switch, but maybe Switch will find success with a lot of these smaller games. The fact that we spent 30 minutes talking about things like Puyo Puyo and Wonder Boy and Kamiko and games that are like, they're not going to be million sellers, but like they build a library and they build up this sort of like treasure of, I open up my Switch, I've suddenly got 40 different games to choose from.
And that's a good point, but it is going to be a shame if, and this is going to happen, I think, at least until Mario, if most of year one passes and is not another big game or two, and granted, maybe I'm being a little hyperbolic here because Xenoblade is a massive game, for example, and that's games on time, and I'm believing it is.
It's not a crowd pleaser. It's not a mainstream
No. But I'm talking more scale, scope. Like right now, I feel like Switch is being associated. Yeah, AAA. I feel like Switch is being associated as like small indie games, and it's like, and I'm not saying you said that. I'm saying I've heard that. And one giant AAA game, but I feel like that giant AAA game keeps getting left out of the conversation in terms of, hey, a game of that scale and size works really well on the system. The challenge is a third party going to invest the resources to make that happen and commit to Nintendo being the place where they're going to try and make that money?
Yeah.
And they haven't made that strong play yet, and they're still waiting for that big third party game. I think it is coming. I think it's a matter of time. Whether or not it's year one is the question. And think of year one on every console too.
Yeah.
Usually year one is not great. It's okay at best, right? And so far, I feel like we're satisfied with year one, and year one looks pretty good if it can continue at the momentum that it is, which is the big question mark.
Well, year one is always interesting for consoles because consoles historically launch in November, right? So that means year one is Christmas, where all the launch games are out of the way, which is where we are now in March, April, May with the Switch, and then 6 months until E3.
Yeah, droughts.
Very different story with us here, right?
Yeah,
E3 is in a month and a half.
Yeah, and we've got ARMS on the way too, right? Like there are a couple of other games that are in the path here. What is most notable for me is like we all got excited about Zelda, and that's our kind of game. But the big sellers are Mario Kart and Mario, right? Like that's like on every console, the big sellers are Mario Kart and Mario.
That's
and
true.
Then Smash Brothers is up there before usually a lot of the Zelda games.
Yeah.
Like, that may change because Breath of the Wild is so good.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, like I hope Mario doesn't get delayed and fall out of this year.
Yeah, I don't think it can.
Because that's a very strong. That's like a second launch for Christmas.
Right.
You're putting the Switch out. Maybe it's going to be cheaper. I actually don't think so. I think they're going to hold their
I don't think
price.
it'll be cheaper.
But they'll have new controller colors that go out with Mario
bundles,
at Christmas.
The only way
really
it's
good.
cheaper is if this summer it does not sell at all. If by the next financial meeting, this quarter happens and just all the momentum dies out of this thing. I think that is the only warning sign where Nintendo says, okay, we have to drop this price or we have to bundle or we have to do something else. And granted, I still think this holiday you're going to see bundles. I think the fact that they were able to use Zelda as a not bundled title and get everyone to commit that way was a bold choice. But for the holiday, you are facing stiffer competition from your competitors.
I think E3 is really important this year too.
Yeah,
because E3 is it's a summer conference, right? Like they can, if they announce the right titles that people care about, whether it's sequels to the existing franchises or some new stuff or some partnership stuff, right? Like continued rumblings with Rabbids and Mario characters is gonna happen, right? Like it's pretty trustworthy, all that stuff. So all of that I think will add up and tell a good story for summer too.
You got to keep that honeymoon phase going, right? And that's where we all are right now with the Switch. And I think going from Breath of the Wild to Kart to Splatoon to ARMS to everything else, that'll be an awesome few months if they can keep that conversation going through E3 into the fall. If third parties are watching what happened with the first few months of the system and seeing that people are really connecting with it, and they can start deciding that they are making announcements at E3 or even this fall that they're going to start porting stuff over. I'm not stupid. I know it takes a little bit of time to port a game over to Switch, especially of the magnitude of some of the AAA games that are coming out from third parties right now. The fact that these games are scaling up towards the PS4 Pro and now the Scorpio, I mean, you can't really take the vision of something like Battlefront 2 and shrink it down to this system. But Zelda works there. So you can take this incredible, huge, deep, 100-hour RPG action game and put it there. So if companies can figure out a way to translate their vision to this thing, or even do Bethesda where you bring a Skyrim over, or you bring a Fallout over eventually, hopefully, I think you're going to see some success here. But it's all about that momentum, right? Like we don't want to get in that Wii U era where it's one game every 3 or 4 months. I want one big game, 1 or 2 big games a month, couple indie games every single week to hold me over. Get that virtual console rolling out, get all of that working.
Point. They need third parties to come out, and now that games are getting announced, and now that more and more sort of veils are getting lifted on new software, you don't want to make it seem like once again this is the Nintendo only system plus indies, and I don't think that is a way you can succeed with this box. It didn't work the first time with Wii U, and it will not work this time. If year one is still just weathering the storm, and then year two is where the big third-party games start to show up, I think that's all right.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, that also shows that maybe you guys have to start getting better at getting third parties into your pool and access, because we also don't know if just access to the device was part of the reason that some third parties were not able to pick up and start making games.
Seems like they all had access because, like, I mean, think about it. Sega had it, definitely, right? They got Sonic
Japanese
and
company.
Puyo.
Keep going.
Capcom had it.
Japanese
right?
company.
Like,
Keep going.
Square had it.
Japanese company.
Yeah.
Keep going. But Bethesda probably had it.
has it.
You would hope, although Skyrim
EA had it and went, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and then put it down.
FIFA, that's right.
So, real quick counterpoint to all that. One of the things I'm finding with my Switch habits is that I'm playing less and less mobile games, and I'm not touching my 3DS at all. So, whereas it's not directly competing with the games I'd play on my PS4, because I still feel like that's kind of a church and state, right? When I sit down, turn on my surround sound, play a big game in PS4 or PSVR, Xbox One, stuff I'm playing on Switch is competing with the smaller, weirder games I was playing on my phone. Because now I'm not touching my touchscreen anymore. No one's texting me during it. I have this pure, focused gaming device that I can bring anywhere. And I think Nintendo firing on all cylinders of not really having to, and we're still seeing tricklings of the 3DS games here and there, but I think bringing everything slowly over to Switch, focusing everything on one platform. I think if we start seeing third parties experiment with some of their older games or some new IPs or some smaller versions of current games that they're working on and putting them on Switch, we might see some cool success there. Yeah. Instead of expecting Battlefront 2, maybe there's a ground up type of Star Wars thing that I would have played on my phone that now I'll play on my Switch.
That's what I want. And that's what I think they need, especially going into a holiday where Star Wars is going to be the biggest thing you talk about. Yeah. Anyone's going to be talking about is Last Jedi. Yeah. The minute December rolls around, the minute November rolls around, that's going to be the biggest thing. You need a Star Wars franchise title.
And not just Lego Star Wars.
And not just Lego Star Wars. Although that will satisfy the kid factor. It's not for people like
It'll
us.
happen for sure.
All right.
Dude, I'll play the hell out of Lego Star Wars on my Switch.
Yeah. But we'll see, right? And then the other thing, and I think one of you said this earlier, and I apologize if I'm not attributing this right. If third parties just say, okay, we have Final Fantasy 15, and that's a success, and we think we can make this work on Switch, but we have to change the art style, or we have to change the look of it. We have to sort of massage this, but not make it seem like this is a cheap, crappy port of a game.
Right.
That's where we're going to see if that strategy can work or not.
You don't want a Dead Rising chop till you drop.
Yeah. More like choppy frame rate till you drop the controller and walk away.
Right. You don't want that.
Really quick, we don't know
shooters based on Dead Space and stuff. Yeah,
that was a cool game.
That
was a cool
bad.
game, but it wasn't the right. It wasn't the same. As Dead
It wasn't the
Space.
same as
It was a roller coaster ride. It's like playing a VR game where you just sit and then you're shooting things.
Yeah, no, that's fair. We don't know how 1-2 Switch did at all. No disclosure on that.
13th on NPD last month.
It was 13th on NPD though last month, but then again, I mean, March is a big month for anything. Like
probably my most regretted purchase in Nintendo launch game history. Yeah,
but it shows.
I really wanted to connect with that game. I could not.
It's fussy. It's not as turnkey as it should be. Like I tried playing it with non-gamer friends, and they just lost interest. I'm like, hold on a second, hold on, by the time you got it working, like it wasn't intuitive enough. It shows though that the audience that went nuts over Wii is not the same as the Switch audience, because that is more of a mainstreamy title, like Wii Sports.
Well, we kept saying like we need a Wii Sports for this thing, right? Like what is that launch game for this thing?
Well, we talked about how this wasn't it. Like we knew that. We went into this going, this isn't the Wii Sports thing, but it can be a thing. And it turns out,
but just put Wii Sports on this thing.
You did that on Wii U, and it didn't really move anything. I think you wait, but we can get into that and maybe later. I just want to get through 3DS numbers. So they sold 7.27 million units there. Lifetime 3DS has surpassed 66 million units. That's cool. Pokemon Sun and Moon, 15.44 million units sold, right on the heels of X and Y, which is 16. It is absolutely not, dude. The top 3 games on 3D, the top 4 games on 3DS, 3 of them are Pokemon games. The only one that's not a Pokemon game, and there's Mario Kart 7, I think. Which is nuts. Super Mario Maker 3DS sold better than we thought it would, 2.34 million units. No idea if the Mario phone game bump actually exists / works. Not going to say whether or not that influenced that.
There's
but
not
I'm
that much
surprised.
software on the 3DS. Like I feel like any kind
Mario
of
still
major
moves, yeah.
Nintendo release will sell.
Yeah, and then
even though it was the lesser of the versions.
Kirby Planet Robobot sold 1.36 million units.
That's really big.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
for a
good.
Kirby game,
Didn't
it's
kill
like-
the console either. Write that down.
No, it didn't kill the, not yet.
No, it was one more Kirby game they got to roll out.
I got to read this because this is my favorite moment of the entire financial results numbers. So there was a one-sentence mention of the NES Classic. One sentence.
Was it? We couldn't find it either.
It should have been. The Nintendo Entertainment System NES Classic Edition also launched in Japan and overseas in November, to widespread popularity. And that's it. And they changed topics to Amiibo. That was it. Widespread popularity, no lifetime sales, no mention on if they regret or are happy or are thrilled or anything. Just this released, widespread popularity, and Amiibo sold 9.1 million units of figure type, 9.3, but and it was like
Right. Yeah. That's it. Goodbye. See you soon.
I'm sad. We've already had our grievances on that.
This story has not been told yet. What happened with the NES Classic? There is a story there. That could have been the hot Christmas toy. Not even like a game console competitor. Like that could have been a hot Christmas toy. And they either didn't predict the market or there was something else and they didn't want it to be
Or
that
it had to be
way.
all Switch
And look,
all the
you
time.
can always say like, well, they meant it as a limited. Like no company goes, we could make a lot of money, but let's not do that, right? Like no company ever says that. Like the limited
Nintendo
release
says
thing
that.
is
That's
bull.
their whole MO.
But they didn't. They said, oh, no, we never intended, which I think is them using an excuse. I think you're right. But
I would love to know what happened.
at the same time, these rumblings of a Super Nintendo Classic have now kicked up, right? And it's the big question of whether or not that's true. And whether or not people who wanted the first one are so upset they don't want to go back, which I don't think is true. But we'll see. I mean, we kept saying that about Amiibo, yet Amiibo kept selling. But the bigger story, I think, is that if you are doing this again, if you are doing an SNES Classic, be upfront about how limited it's going to be. Stern glance at the camera, all of us. Wrong camera. There we go, Sean. Be upfront about how limited it's going to be, and make sure you up production. But we've talked about this too. Would anyone have expected this device to do well? I don't think it didn't for Sega. It didn't for Atari. Why the heck did Nintendo would have thought that? But then the reaction should have been the sea change.
Because people have better memories of Super Mario Bros. 3 than they do Echo the Dolphin and Altered Beast.
Don't start that fight, man.
Yeah, those are bad
the Sega
games.
fans are going
Bring
to kick
it.
the door down.
The fight's over, man. Like you can't argue against
You
that.
can't. I'm not going to. I'm going to
Echo.
skip ahead.
I was here. No one actually liked Echo.
I like the concept of
You
it.
didn't like Altered Beast. No one likes Altered
nobody
Beast.
likes it.
You
No
remember
one
that you
should
do,
like
but you
Altered
didn't like
Beast.
Altered Beast.
Probably like
If you
Levi
listen to the
Buchanan.
show and you bought Altered Beast on 3DS, I'm sorry.
Yep.
On mobile, I'm not going to go into numbers there, but an interesting quote was that Mario Run iOS and Android together have almost reached 150 million downloads. Fire Emblem has a tenth of that. Yet generates more revenue. And
Yes,
Nintendo's
absolutely.
report itself just brought up, hey, we tried these different models and we tested the market, and that was pretty much how they tried to spin this.
They said we tried these two models, one which Apple advised us strongly against, and everyone who knows the mobile business, and we did it anyway
$10?
for our biggest game. And the other one, which everybody's making lots of money on, guess what? That's the one that's making lots
I
of money.
paid for it. I have no regrets, but I completely understand the mobile
What, Mario
market.
Run?
Mario Run.
Oh, I adored that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not about the game being bad. It's like it's
the audience.
model. That model doesn't work on mobile. And like Nintendo just had to see it for themselves because they've been making games for longer than anyone has made games on mobile, and they just needed to experience it.
I absolutely adored that game. I put 20 hours into it. It updated the other day, and they put in this new 8-bit Bowser icon thing for the Toad area. There's like a whole bunch of new stuff. And I went to look at it, and they were like, collect 40,000 Toads. And I literally pulled my finger up in the air and gave my middle finger to my phone. Other than that, I love that game.
Also, the news that Nintendo technology fellow Genya Takeda is retiring at 68 in June, by the way. Our story messed up, said he retired. It's not true.
Yeah.
He's retiring this June after the next investors meeting. And he's been with the company for 45 years. That's a beautiful thing, although very typical in Japan, right? You stay with the same company in a lot of cases until you retire.
The older generation, for sure. I mean, everything's changing, right, everywhere in the world. But yeah, and he was just kind of at past Space Worlds, but not like he was always a guy in the room and never the focus of any of our interviews.
So just well-dressed suit, hanging out.
Yeah, you know,
Never talked to him?
One of the creative guys, just not in detail. No.
Okay, so just some background on this man, and this is light. We'll maybe go into a little bit more about him or the things he worked on in another show. Responsible for the design of the Nintendo 64 analog stick, Wii hardware design, some classic games like Punch-Out are part of this man's resume.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and he's going to be replaced by one of his colleagues, Ko Shiota, who is going to take his place on the board, basically. Currently, that guy is the head of the platform technology development.
Wii hardware design is still, to this day, one of the most gorgeous pieces of hardware I've ever seen.
Agree. Looks
The
great on
Wii
the
is
shelf.
so like the Wii U is just such an odd step.
I know.
After the Wii,
like a
which is
step.
like the way it's slanted and like the way it stands up and it's
Yeah,
such a
I
cool
love that
machine.
little stand. It's so cool.
Yeah.
So Nintendo has forecast that they're going to ship 10 million units of Switch hardware in fiscal 2017-2018. That's for the fiscal year. Reminder, that's the next 12 months
Yep.
starting this April. That seems low to me. And I want to talk about why.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's talk about why. Why does that seem low to me?
Okay.
Well, why does that seem low in general? Am I wrong? I think that they're lowballing this number.
I think so too. I think they're being cautiously optimistic because it'll help them look at their investors in a year and be like, "We did it." Mm-hmm. You know, why? If this thing sold this much already without having many on the shelf, I think we can easily do 12 million, 13
It makes you wonder too if there's just lack of confidence in the supply chain. Let's talk
That's
about
what I
that.
was going to say. Like, I think the only reason why they would state it like that, I mean, the two reasons are they have, with the Wii U, they have constantly had to take down their number. And that doesn't feel good, doesn't put anybody, like, it doesn't create confidence with their investors, but it also hurts third-party relations. Like, as, you know, the heads of companies like EA or Square will look at that and say, man, they're taking down their number, which means fewer machines. Why should I not cancel some of the projects I'm working on, right? And so I think they want to beat the number and they want to have good news out there and say, we did it. The second thing is lack of confidence in being able to make enough machines or getting the right amount of machines to the different territories. Because unlike some of the other consoles, and that's why system launch figures are always apples and oranges, right? Some launched in Japan earlier, in the US later, or vice versa. It's like they're servicing all the territories at once.
So they've tried this strategy before in the Wii U era, and it's not a guaranteed win scenario because I don't recall the exact figure, but I remember one of the forecasts was like Wii U will sell 3 million, like 3.5 million over the course of the next year. And we sat here going, they're lowballing because they've set the number so low that when the next fiscal comes around, they could say we hit that or we exceeded. Fun fact, that year they just got there. Yeah. I think they were right underneath the target.
They knew they had no games.
But no one made a huge deal out of it.
Right.
It was just basically, oh, well, whatever. They were just short. Didn't hurt them. But I do agree with that. I just feel that it is strange to see that considering the excitement for the machine, considering how much they've sort of spelled out for people for year one and how much excitement that's generated.
Right, but that said, do we know much about profit margins on this thing? Like, they're selling it for $299. What are they making off of each thing?
They're making money per unit. We just don't know how much.
We don't know how much, right? Yeah. So I'd be interested in knowing that because Nintendo has never really sold at a loss. Nope. But something tells me that the profit margins are slightly slimmer on this thing than some of the systems we've seen in the past. There's just a lot going on here. So I'd be interested to know that, and I wonder if that's part of the lowballing procedure for them. Mm-hmm. If they're making $40, $50 off of each unit, then maybe lowball. I think in the past they've probably made more than that.
Yep. Mm-hmm. There was a Wall Street Journal report earlier this year, just a couple weeks ago, that was talking about Nintendo ramping up production from 8 million units for the fiscal year to 16. But again, these were just rumors and people talking. Like, this was not like a confirmed thing Nintendo ever said.
You need to make more than 10 million units in order to sell 10 million, right? Like you need to have supply on store shelves in different places because, if the thing is a hit in the US but not that hot in Europe, you got to make sure that the machines are sitting there for people to buy.
Sure. Which tends to happen, and anecdotally we're even seeing in Japan it's impossible to buy this thing, like there's still it's a big news. I see tweets when someone's like, this one store's got 2 units, like rush down there.
Get 'em!
Yeah,
that's great.
What I thought was interesting, they're expecting to sell 6 million.
I was going to bring that up next.
3DS, right?
Yeah. So they're keeping it around?
They're keeping it around, but they're not. That doesn't say to me, hey, we have a new, smaller 3DS or something exciting coming to the market where people who already own a 3DS would double dip and buy a new one. Like, I think the 6 million is lower than the last year. They may not have a Pokemon game. And
with
all
that,
right?
you just do some new color changes, right? And you tried out the whole line. The thing is, like, the 2DS launched as sort of their like low end, like a low barrier for entry point system, right? I think eventually, why are you swinging that at me? Eventually, you get to the point, like possibly this holiday, where they can say like, hey, if you want to play a bunch of Nintendo games on the cheap, our 3DS is now as cheap as the 2DS used to be. There's a brand new color for it, you know.
They're pushing there, right? You see Nintendo Selects constantly get touted, and that's the $20 label for any Nintendo 3DS game, which is a good choice. There's also the question of, do you make it cheaper? Do you finally commit and say, all right, $99 for the regular 3DS, which they experimented with. There was that Black Friday bundle. The poor Alexio on our video tech team wanted so badly, and you know what Alexio got? Nothing, because
which one?
He wanted the black new 3DS that was $99 for like a day or a weekend or whatever.
It was the Galaxy one.
It was gone.
But like to me, the 3DS story in the next year has to be one of differentiation, right? Like there's the, hey, it's cheap and therefore you want it if you can't afford the $300 machine. But like the 3DS XL is not that much smaller, and so when I make a decision what console to bring with me on the go, it's not like, oh, I'm going to take the 3DS because it'll fit in my pocket. Like I don't run into that. Maybe some people do. And so that's where I feel like you almost need a new device. You almost need
your Switch doesn't.
You need the tiny. Now it's the time
doesn't play
for
Pokemon.
Now it's the time for GBA Micro, for like a small machine that is cheaper, not more expensive.
A new, smaller 3DS model to just say, okay, this is it. This is our last year of production. We're going to push this out. Interesting.
Might be a March
one thing with your example though is that you may not be the target consumer though anymore, especially just given that, you know, like all of us on this show are not. We have upgraded to Switch. We only want to play games on Switch.
No looking back, it feels like
Box Boy. It felt like original.
No, it feels like I love it, but it feels like watching a movie on DVD now.
Yeah,
you know,
kids. But that's the thing, right? Like the younger audience does not want the big iPhone either. They want the smaller models usually, and so that's why I feel like, especially if you're going after kids, go smaller. They're not the ones who are crowing about fidelity, saying, oh, the screen is too tiny. Like, they are fine with small screens. My daughter has an iPad Pro and a phone. She watches all her freaking shows on the iPhone. Right? And that thing's sitting there. I mean, she draws on it.
Let's see. My only counter to your argument, which I think is good, is just that it can distract from 3DS. Anything new anything Nintendo.
Oh, I'm saying you replace it.
Sorry,
I'm saying you replace it.
No, but I'm talking about Switch. Like,
Switch.
Does that distract from Switch? I think it does.
Yes, it would. But it also will. Like now, you have two models on the market that are very similar in size. The Switch is bigger than the XL. Like, don't you want to differentiate by saying, you know what, the 3DS is a very different device. It's yay big. You know. Cheap carts.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we'll see. I think they have to be careful with cannibalizing the sales of the Switch, because I think for the first time ever, we've never really had this before, where I guess they have in the era of like the GBA and the DS around the same time, right? The DS and the 3DS.
But that failed.
It's tough to support both those things at the same time. So I think now more than ever, I mean, you have this high-end handheld, and then you have a handheld that you've been kicking around for a few years. You have to be careful there. I think you don't want to energize the old brand too much. I think you can slowly phase it out with some price drops. You don't,
I think you make it cheap.
Make it cheap. Bundle it with some games.
Reach a different audience.
And then put some damn Pokemon on Switch if you really want to. You want to get that number to 15.
Oh, 2018. That's gotta be, 2018, baby.
A big E3 announcement.
Buckle up for 2018. So, all right, just one question on the question block because we are over time, and this is a good one. Clyde Kohler writes in, says, I'd love to see how you would rank the Mario Kart series of games. He'd love an article on the site as well about that. And
should do that.
Just, which, as well as what you miss of a former game. No, we're not going to do the second part of the question. Just let's rank the Mario Kart series. This is from Clyde Kohler. Thank you for writing in, Clyde.
This is a very tough one for me.
What is number one?
Oh man, this is tough for me personally because I want to say Mario Kart 64 because I had the most fun with it at the time. But I think MK8 is probably like technically, just character-wise.
I thought I was going to be alone on that.
No, I mean it's really hard. It's really hard to not say that that's like just the best package of all Mario Kart, right? I can tell you what the worst one is.
Which one?
Super Mario Kart Advance.
Oh, so Super Circuit.
Super Circuit.
Yeah.
Is
not a fan.
No, not a fan. And I think because the way the like, I think it controls the weakest. I think the level design is kind of the weakest.
It was generous though. They gave you tons of carts at racetracks on that one.
But it's also, it lacked the verticality of the other levels. Everything is completely flat, which you get a free pass on Super Mario Kart, the original.
Yep.
But let's see.
No, so for me, it's 8 Deluxe, I think, is now the best package with the battle mode brought back in style. That, to me, is the strongest game. I have the fondest memories of 64 and the Super NES game.
Yeah.
Super NES, of course, 2-player versus only and co-op. I love playing that with my friend. Top one would be 8 Deluxe. Then I would say 7 is number 2.
Really?
3DS?
I think
I love that game.
Really good game.
More than DS, even though snaking being what it was. DS was great, man.
Snaking killed it for me, man.
Yeah, but the Mario Kart DS is amazing.
Dude, snaking was like, I'm in second place, and first place is playing Mario Kart 8. That's how far ahead they were. Like, snaking was like, couldn't even catch up. You could throw 80 blue shells in a row at them.
No, and then I really liked 64, especially 4-player battle mode was really good.
Yeah.
I couldn't get into Double Dash. I know there are a lot of fans. I love the mechanics. I always thought it was slow.
Yeah, Double Dash would be number 3 for me.
I liked.
I really liked the
I liked Double Dash's multiplayer modes. Like playing Grand Prix stuff was cool. Playing 2-player. I think could you play 2 players in the same car? I hated battle mode in that game.
It was totally botched.
No one's talking about the Wii version. Mario
That's because we all didn't like it.
Yeah, like
that
what happened there?
Yeah.
The Rubber Band AI in that game really killed it.
Yeah, too many blue shells. I mean, whatever we think of it, it was one of the best-selling entries in that series.
I
No, like none of those games,
First one with the
they're
motion
all
control
really
too,
good games
for everyone.
right?
Yeah.
Like,
graphically, it's
all good.
The Wii one's really hard to look at.
No, yeah, today, but at the time, it was hard too because there was HD consoles. But it hit all the right notes. It's not a terrible game. I just think the rubber banding is out of control, especially from CPU players. Like I didn't. And battle mode doesn't stand out in my mind on that game either. But I wasn't really a fan like you guys were. So wait, what's number 2? Is it Mario Kart 64 or Mario Kart DS? Choose now so we can move on.
for you?
Oh, I would say
We have to agree on this.
I would say 2 is 64.
64?
Yeah, from just a nostalgia factor, I love that game so
Battle
much.
mode, man.
Yeah.
The battle mode was the best.
No, you're
Can
right.
I get Double
Walk
Dash
for
at
it.
4 if I give you DS at 3?
What about 7?
7.
Oh, 7 could be.
I would
number
put
3.
7 at 3.
64, 7, DS, Double Dash.
Double Dash. Get Double Dash in.
Dude, if we don't put Super Mario Kart in the top 5, we're gonna get hell forever. But I don't really care. Like, to me, I don't.
But it's also so good. It really is. Like, it's infinitely playable still.
But it's been improved upon exponentially.
No question.
No question. Yeah, but it started it all, and it
Super
does have
Circuit's
its
dead
own-
last.
Yeah.
We'll give it that. Super Circuit, dead last.
Super Circuit dead last. Does Wii come before then Super Circuit?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll give it that.
All right. Well, thank you so much for watching, for listening. Yeah, it is hard.
If you want to know what it's like to make a list here at IGN, that's a tiny
Especially
little.
under time constraints. I'm really sorry I put you guys on the spot like
harmless.
that. Yeah. It's what we do here. And if you like IGN, you should, and you like Nintendo Voice Chat, you should check out our YouTube channel, NVC, which you can find on youtube.com/Nintendo Voice Chat. Bear in mind that's what that means, but you can look up NVC and we'll come up there too. You find us on iTunes or any podcast service you name that we're out there. And yeah, thanks again for listening to the show. Send feedback. What's our email?
NVC at IGN.com. Very complicated to remember, I know.
I forget sometimes.
NVC
At IGN.com.
That's spelled Igen.
I just tried to get him to talk once, and this is what I got.
Oh, that's it. Oh, you were. I didn't know this was like a little bone I got.
All right. Enjoy that steak. So, thank you for watching and listening to Nintendo Voice Chat. We're a weekly show on IGN, and you can find us on Twitter. You can find Brian Altano at.
Agent Bizzle.
You can find Per Schneider at.
Pair IGN.
And you can find myself, Jose_Otero. Thank you so much for watching and listening. We'll be back next week with more Nintendo Voice Chat. Hey everyone, I'm Jose Otero, host of IGN's Nintendo Voice Chat. And if you liked that episode, you should check out our other content, like our Mario Kart 8 Deluxe review, our Puyo Puyo Tetris review, or our Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 review. Thanks again for watching, and make sure you subscribe to IGN and Nintendo Voice Chat.